I'm Ann Webb, Policy Director with Common Cause NC. This week, we're taking a closer look at redistricting in North Carolina, as legislators will soon impose new congressional and legislative voting maps. Stick with us to learn why redistricting matters and why we're drawing maps again this year. Number 1. Redistricting is a critical issue that will directly impact every person across our state. What happens with redistricting in the coming weeks could determine if we the people have a voice in our elections and in shaping our state's laws and priorities for years to come. First, a quick primer. Redistricting refers to the redrawing of North Carolina's voting districts. Redistricting is supposed to happen once every 10 years following the U.S. Census. The purpose of redistricting is to account for changes in the state's population and to ensure voting districts have an equal number of people. For instance, North Carolina is divided into congressional districts, each of which must have the same number of people living in them. But over time, people move around and the districts become unequal in population. And so, after the census makes an updated count of the population, the districts are redrawn or redistricted to ensure they have equal populations. That's how it's supposed to work, redrawing our districts just once every 10 years. But if you've been following North Carolina politics, you know that in reality, our state has gone through redistricting far more often because of court cases in response to something called gerrymandering. Number 2. So, what's gerrymandering? Gerrymandering happens when politicians abuse redistricting to unfairly favor themselves and their party, cracking communities and packing voters into manipulated voting districts that deprive voters of a voice in our elections. Here in North Carolina, the state legislature has the power of redistricting, and for years, the result has been politicians abusing that power with extreme gerrymandering that warps our districts, divides our communities, and undercuts our right as voters to have a say in choosing who represents us. In turn, politicians are able to cling to power without being held accountable to the public. North Carolinians have suffered from racist and partisan gerrymandering, with legislators treating us like political pawns instead of respecting our rights as constituents. For decades, we at Common Cause have been working to end gerrymandering in North Carolina, and we've had some important wins in our fight for fair maps. Number 3. In 2021, the Republican-controlled legislature imposed extremely gerrymandered congressional and legislative districts on the people of our state. We at Common Cause and other plaintiffs challenged those discriminatory gerrymanders in court, and we won. In early 2022, the North Carolina Supreme Court ruled that partisan gerrymandering violates our state's constitution and ordered new maps drawn that would respect the rights of voters. That was an historic victory for the people of our state. The ruling set a clear precedent that gerrymandering was illegal in North Carolina, and it resulted in fairer maps for the 2022 election. But that win for democracy would soon be threatened with a dramatic shift in the makeup of our state's highest court. Number 4. At the start of 2023, a new Republican majority took control of the North Carolina Supreme Court, and it swiftly agreed with a demand by Republican legislators to overturn our victory against gerrymandering. In a ruling that shattered settled law and brazenly ignored our constitutional freedoms, the new Republican majority on the court reversed the ban on partisan gerrymandering, opening the door for the Republican-controlled legislature to redraw North Carolina's voting maps this fall and potentially engage in anti-voter gerrymandering once again. Number 5. Because of that reversal by the court, a new round of redistricting and possible gerrymandering is underway right now in North Carolina. This past week, and with scant notice, Republican legislative leaders held 3 public hearings on redistricting. That's just a fraction of the number of hearings held in past redistricting cycles. And it forced some North Carolinians to travel for hours just to be given 2 minutes to speak. The overwhelming majority of people who spoke at this week's hearings called for a better, more inclusive redistricting process. Speaker after speaker demanded that politicians in the legislature stop rigging our voting maps.
We want fair maps. We want fair maps. Thank you.
This is urgent. Legislative leaders say new voting maps could be unveiled and pushed through by lawmakers as soon as the week of October 9th. We are already mobilizing North Carolinians across the state to speak out and remind the legislature that our voting districts don't belong to politicians, they belong to the people. We need your voice. Go to fairmapsnc.org to submit your comments to lawmakers. Demand an inclusive and fully transparent redistricting process, free from gerrymandering. Demand fair voting maps that respect our rights, keep our communities together, and put people over politics.